Hello everyone, welcome to Learn with Raiza. So back again with a psychology video. This is about the psychosexual stages of development. So in my previous video we gave a brief introduction on what is psychology. So now let's talk about the development of the child behavior, the stages of the behavior of the child under this topic. So let's now move into the video. Well, Freud proposed the psychological development in childhood takes place during 5 psychosexual stages, right? That is like oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. So, these stages are called psychosexual stages. Why? Because each stage is representing the fixation of the libido. So, libido is like the sexual drive, okay, or the instinct, right? So acting of this libido on different parts of the body is categorizing these stages. So let's talk about each stage separately now. So there are certain theories of psychodynamic approach, right? So that is, one is called the frustration. Let's talk one by one. Frustration means in psychology we say that it is a common emotional response related to some oppositions related to anger, annoyance, and disappointment. So there are few causes for this frustration to occur. Frustration originates from feelings of uncertainty and insecurity, which stems from a sense of inability to fulfill needs. So, if the needs of an individual are blocked, uneasiness and frustration are more likely to occur. So, if a person was unable to complete his or her task, the planned task, or to fulfill any required needs, the person falls into the situation of frustration. So, well, the next theory under this psychodynamic approach is about the overindulgence. So, this overindulgence is an action or fact of having too much of something enjoyable. So, this is very noticeable among the small children. They are, when parents are trying to provide them more love and care, they expect that in every situation. Even when the particular kid is gifted with another baby sister or brother, they still expect the same love and care from the parents, even in a very annoyed situation when they are even stubborn. So that is overindulgence. They are eagerly waiting for something that was really enjoyable for them. So possibly the person's need may have been so well satisfied that he or she is reluctant to leave the psychological benefit of the particular stage. So stress, anxiety, and depression, they can cause people to bring because of the reward seeking behavior, right? So they are expecting that same enjoyable situation or sometimes a well satisfied situation. They expect this is known as overindulgence. Psychological benefit of the particular stage, they are expecting that, or they are reluctant to leave the particular stage. This is called as overindulgence. The last theory of this psychodynamic approach is about fixation. Stress, anxiety, and depression can cause people to bing because of a reward seeking behavior. A fixation is a persistent focus of the idea's pleasure seeking energies at an earlier stage of psychosexual development. These fixation occur when an issue or conflict in a psychosexual stage remains unresolved, leaving the individual focused on this stage and unable to move on to the next. So yeah, this is very much familiar because you might have met these kind of people as well. How the fixation means when a person is reluctant to leave that stage. So they are fixed in that stage because sometimes there can become a conflict or an issue in that particular stage. So that conflict or the issue might not be resolved. So they are not able to leave that stage and move to the next psychosexual stage of development. So these kind of problems at last finally they affect on the personality development. So in each and every stage of psychosexual development, we can meet up with these fixations. For example, the oral fixations, anal fixations, phallic fixations. So each and every stage, there are certain incidents that keep the person to remain fixed in the particular stage. So Freud's psychosexual stages are 5 types as I told you: oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. So we are going to discuss each and every stage separately. So just check whether what about the stages what you spent when you were a kid during the particular age limit. Well, now we are going to discuss about the first stage of psychosexual development, oral stage. Oral stage is from birth to 1 year. We call that stage as the oral stage. So during this stage, according to the Freudian psychoanalytic theory, initial psychosexual stage, the first stage, where the developing infant's main concerns are with the oral gratification. So the child's motivation is towards his or her mouth. So during the oral stage, the infants, the primary source of the interaction occur through the mouth. So rooting and sucking reflex is especially important. Mouth is the vital for eating, and the infant derives pleasure from oral stimulation. So you might have noticed this in your day-to-day family background, because the small children, they put all sort of things what they get to their mouth. They get pleasure, they seek the pleasure by doing this activity. They suck and they lick and they have that taste. So they feel the pleasure. So as mentioned previously, Freud might suggest that nail biting, smoking, gum chewing, excessive drinking, they are the signs of we can find in a person for the oral fixation. That person is fixed in that particular stage. So this would indicate that individual did not resolve the primary conflict during the earlier stage of psychosexual development of the oral stage. That person has unresolved problems during that stage. So there are the symptoms you can find: nail biting, or the gum chewing, excessive drinking. All these are the symptoms that we can find in a person who is in oral fixation. The second stage of psychosexual development is called as the anal stage. So this stage starts from 1 year old to 3 years, 1 to 3 years. So anal stage, what happens? The libido is focusing on the anus, and the child, he derives very great pleasure from defecating. So the anal stage, according to the Freudian psychology, it's a period of human development. So this, as I told you, it occurs from 1 to 3 years age. So this age child begins to get the toilet train, or we call the potty train, that brings the child's fascination in erogenous zone of the anus. So erogenous zone is focused on the bowel and bladder control. So the child, he knows that he is fully aware that he is a person in his own right, and that their wishes, they can bring them into conflict with the demands of the outside world. So that is the ego. Ego is developed. So child approach with this conflict with the parents' demand. So if the child had a successful completion of this anal stage, it depends on how the parents interact with the child while the potty training. So if the child successfully reach it, it's really a good thing. So Freud believed that this type of conflict is tend to come to a head in a potty training. So that means adults impose restrictions where the child can defecate. So nature of this first conflict with the authority, they can determine the child's future relationships with all forms of the authority. So if a parent praises the child and gives reward for using the toilet properly and at the right times, then child will successfully go through the stage. So however, if a parent ridicules and punishes a child while they are at this anal stage, the child can respond in some other negative ways. So parents, they should be very careful how they react to their child during this very sensitive stage. During this anal stage, children, they try to test their parents, the authoritative figures. So the child, he tries to test the parents, how much power they really have. So according to the method of potty training, this can be classified into two as anal retentive personality and anal expulsive personality. So early, or we can say harsh potty training, will lead the child to become an anal retentive personality. So he or she will hate mess, that he will be obsessively tidy, punctual, respectful of authority. So they can be stubborn and tight-fisted with their cash and possessions. The negative reaction from their parents, such as early potty training, as I told you, harsh potty training, that is the main reason. So if the parents, they try to force the child to learn to control their bowel movements, the child may react by deliberately holding back in rebellion. On the other hand, the anal expulsive. So this is the opposite of that. Adults, they would be anal expulsive adults. Such adults, they underwent the liberal toilet training as opposed to the above reactions. So these adults, as children, usually relieve themselves at inappropriate time. As children, they soiled their pants whenever they pleased. So anal expulsive underwent a liberal toilet training regime during this anal stage. So in adulthood, anal expulsive is the person who wants to share things with you. They like giving things away. They are sharing everything. So this is anal expulsive personality. But this personality is also sometimes messy, disorganized, and rebellious. In Freudian psychoanalysis, the phallic stage is the third stage of the psychosexual development. So this stage occurs from 3 to 6 years old. So what's the speciality here is that child or the infant's desire, the libido, is focused on their genital area. So sensitivity now becomes concentrated in the genital area, and sometimes the masturbation. So in both sexes, that can become female and male. So they think that it's a new source of pleasure. So child becomes aware of anatomical sex difference that sets in motion a conflict between erotic attraction, resentment, rivalry, jealousy, fear. So this is what Freud called as Oedipus complex, that is in boys, and Electrocomplex in girls. So this is resolved through the process of identification that involve the child adopting some characteristics of the same sex parent. So let's discuss about the Oedipus complex and Electrocomplex too. The most important aspect of the phallic stage is the Oedipus complex. So this is one of Freud's most controversial ideas and one that many people reject outright. Oedipus complex is psychoanalytic theory that is a desire for sexual involvement with the parent of opposite sex and a concomitant sense of rivalry with the parent of the same sex. So this is a very crucial stage in the normal developmental process. So Sigmund Freud, he introduced this concept in his interpretation of dreams. So if you ask about the what is this Oedipus complex, like the name of the Oedipus complex, it derived from the Greek myth. So there's a myth like where Oedipus, a young man, he kills his father and he marries his mother. So by discovering this, he pokes his eyes out and he becomes blind. So this Oedipal is the generic or the general term for both the Oedipus and Electra complex. So in the young boys, Oedipus complex, or we can say more correctly, the conflict that arises because boy develops the sexual or pleasurable desire for his mother. He wants to possess his mother exclusively and he needs to get rid of his father to enable him to do so. So what happens if Oedipus complex is not resolved? When the Oedipus complex is not resolved successfully during the phallic stage, then an unhealthy fixation can develop and remain. So this will lead to boys becoming fixated on their mothers, girls becoming fixated on their fathers, causing them to choose the romantic partners that resemble their opposite sex parents as adults. So let's discuss about the castration anxiety first. In the young boys, the Oedipus complex or more correctly if I say the conflict, arises because the boy develops the sexual or the pleasurable desires for his mother. So he wants to possess his mother exclusively and get rid of his father to enable him to do so. So, if the boy thinks that his father is finding all about this and his father would take away what he loves the most, that is mother, so during this phallic stage, boy loves most his penis. So therefore, the boy develops the castration anxiety. So castration anxiety is a psychoanalytic concept that is introduced by the Sigmund Freud, which means that the boy is having the fear of losing or damaging to his genital organ, that's a penis, as a punishment for the sexual desire towards his mother. So this castration anxiety, fear of having one's genital penis or genital area removed or cut as a punishment for the sexual desire of a child, is known as the castration anxiety. So this little boy, what he does is, to resolve this problem, he tries to imitate or copy the actions of the masculine dad type behaviors. So this is called as the identification, that how the 3 to 5 years old boy is trying to resolve his own Oedipus complex problem. So identification means internally we adopt the values, attitudes and the behaviors of another person. So the consequence of this is that the boy takes on the male gender role and he adopts an ego, ideal and values that become the superego. So boy tries to imitate the actions of his father to get the mother's attention and to resolve his problem of Oedipus complex, the fixation in Oedipus complex. Now let's see what about the girls. For girls, Oedipus, or we can say Electrocomplex, is less than satisfactory. Because, if I say briefly, the girl desires the father and she realizes that she does not have a penis. So this will lead to the development of penis envy and she wished to be a boy. So Electrocomplex is a psychoanalytic term used to describe the girl's sense of competition with her mother for the affection of the father. So it is comparable to the Oedipus complex in males. Males, they are trying to get the attention of their mother. Girls, they are trying to get the attention of their father. So according to Freud, during the female psychosexual development, young girls, they are attached to her mother. Initially. But when she discovers that she does not have a penis, she becomes attached to her father and then begin to resent her mother. So this is called the Electra complex. So the girl resolves this problem by repressing her desire for her father, and she's substituting that she wish for a penis with the wish for a baby. So the girl blames her mother for her castrated state and this will create the great tension. So girl then represses her feelings to remove her tension. What she does, she identifies with her mother to take on the female gender role. What we discussed the same thing in the castration anxiety too. So, penis envy is a stage that is theorized by Sigmund Freud regarding the female psychosexual development. So, young girls, they experience this anxiety upon the realization that they do not have a penis. So, they try to make the female gender role to get attached to their father. Well, now let's move into the fourth stage of the psychosexual stages of development. That is the latency stage, which is from 6 years to puberty. So latency stage means the latent word, it depicts the meaning of hidden. So in this stage, the libido is dormant. Sigmund Freud, he thought that most of the sexual impulses, they are repressed during this latent stage. Sexual energy that gets sublimated. So they are, it's really children in this age, they are focused towards schoolwork hobbies, and friendship. So most of their child's energy is now channeled into developing some sort of new skills. They try to acquire new knowledge. They wish to play. They try to become largely confined among the other children of their same gender. So according to Freud, most sexual impulses are repressed during this latent stage. Finally, the fifth stage of psychosexual development is the genital stage, which is from puberty to adult. So, this is the last stage of Freud's psychosexual theory of personality development, and this begins during the puberty. So, that means it is a time of adolescent sexual experimentation. So, this is a very successful stage, and this occurs with another person in age of 20s, settling down their loving one-to-one relationship. So, they are capable of building a mature relationship with a person of the opposite sex. So sexual instincts is directed to heterosexual pleasure rather than the self-pleasure like during the phallic stage. For Freud, the proper outlet of the sexual instinct in adults was through the heterosexual intercourse. Fixation and conflict, they may prevent this with the consequence that sexual perversions may develop. So, for example, fixation at the oral stage, they may result in a person gaining the sexual pleasure primarily from kissing and oral sex, so rather than the sexual intercourse. Thanks for watching this video. So, hope that it was helpful for you to get a clear idea about the development stages of the child behavior. Right? So, let's meet up with another video.